Welcome to another episode of Nothing Moves Without Us, a Black culture podcast. On every episode, Clifford and I discuss shows, movies, and music from the past 30 plus years that have played a pivotal role in the Black experience.
We are the culture, nothing moves without us. We are the culture, yeah.
We are culture. Nothing moves without us. Welcome back, brother. How are you?
What's going on? I'm doing good. How you feeling?
You know, in the thick of the holidays, living, excited to be back with you. That's all that matters.
Right. So real quick, to anyone who does watch or who is watching on YouTube, pardon the darkness. Eventually the sun will come across and I'll get some light on my face. Right now you just see my teeth, which is the comical joke, right?
Counts for something, though. Counts for something. It shows that you're there. That's all that matters.
Right.
So are you gonna go ahead and dive in, or you can go ahead and dive in? I'll let you do your thing.
I appreciate it. All right, so today we're not recapping, excuse me. Today we're going to be discussing Kwanzaa. I mentioned that in the last episode. I mentioned that I'm celebrating Kwanzaa for the first time this year, and you said that you're going to a Kwanzaa celebration. So we wanted to kind of combine the focal point Black history, the Black experience, with some new experiences for ourselves, but also kind of do a recap episode where we'll touch on the different principles of Kwanzaa and kind of connect them to some of the media we've covered in the season so far. Excited to see what we both have learned, excited to kind of interject our own new age perspectives into it and see how it goes, man. See how it goes.
Yeah, and also to piggyback off what you're saying, we've talked about it in previous episodes and obviously during the holiday episode, but this is going to be a more in-depth conversation about what we've learned, and it's throughout my research, and we'll dive into that. But throughout my research, people talk about it, and it's been spoken about in so many different ways. But it's going to be nice to be able to share our unique perspective. So excited to dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we do, I know we were going to briefly touch on King Richard, the film King Richard. I know you've seen it. I just watched it. Would love to hear your thoughts first before I give mine, because you know I am with movies. So
all right. So King Richard stars Will Smith. He plays Richard. I can't remember if he has the same last name as them. Is it Richard Williams? Okay, and which is the father of Venus and Serena Williams, and it just tells the story of his dedication, his plan to make Venus the number one rated female tennis player and make Serena the greatest tennis player of all time. I'm not sure if he said female or just tennis player of all time, but I'd give her both, honestly. I'd give Serena Williams best. To me, I think she's the greatest female athlete of all time and definitely the greatest female athlete of our generation. But King Richard just follows their plan of them growing up, living in Compton, and their journey and not having people believe in them, but King Richard's kind of still sticking to the plan, living in the hood and trying to raise daughters where you have, gang violence, you have threats of violence, you have limited perspectives, you have people who don't really believe in the potential of these young Black girls. And for me, clichély, it was a beautiful story. I'll start with that. Some things that kind of stuck out to me were, I might have brought this up in the last episode, but just the duality of the experience. Right? Traditionally, the movies we've seen from the 80s and 90s, dealing with LA, dealing with Compton, dealing with Blackness in LA, it's all rooted in gang violence. It's all rooted in in negative, not negative, stereotypical portrayal of what the Black experience is. It's always, they've always felt very linear. I'm thinking about Baby Boy. I'm thinking about Menace to Society. Thinking about Boys in the Hood. But within that same timeline, within that same scope of existence, while all the Black men were doing all this rowdy behavior, you have this Black father pushing his daughters into greatness, making them, trying to turn them into something wholly other. The whole family is part of the experience. The whole family is supportive. It's a very loving and um, very loving, supportive, and fair family. Um, I could ramble, but I'd rather just kind of go kind of interject and go back and forth because I have a lot of points.
Yeah, no.
So what were your early impressions on it?
Yeah, I felt a lot of the same. I think the thing that really stood out to me was just how consistent he was throughout the entire process of getting to getting his daughters to to where they needed to be. Like he had a plan, and no matter what, nothing was going to stop that plan. Not even his wife. And it was just really it reminded me of books I've read, or it reminded me of people I've followed, celebrities or motivational speakers and so on that talk about so much about consistency, and then seeing it in a film, it was just really good and cool to see. And then the love his kids have for each other. There was no hate. There wasn't like there were moments where Venus and Serena, or Venus was getting all this love and all this hype for her play, and Serena was just as good, or even not better. Obviously, we know what it turned out to be. But
Right.
but in the film, even when there was low points, speaking more so about Serena, the family rallied around her, and it was just really nice to see. There wasn't any just it was drama, but it wasn't drama in the way where you normally see in Black culture or in a Black family. And I really, really loved that. I loved how they all came together, how he always reiterated his plan, and he
Right.
just continued to reiterate it throughout the film, and in different parts when someone would doubt him or someone would say something, he'd be like, "I've already thought this out. It's going to happen this way."
Right.
And his family believed. Uh, so yeah, a lot of what you shared, I feel similar.
It I thought about, I'm thinking about like the first episode we did, right? We talked about masculinity. We talked about like Steve Urkel, Carl Winslow, and how men are treated or portrayed in Black, and how men have been portrayed in Black, how Black men have been portrayed in media. And here you have, we talked about Steve Urkel possibly like the most alpha male on the show. And you see the alpha mentality of King Richard in terms of, again, like you said, having the plan, sticking to the plan, and having the women in his life, having his wife believe in him, having his daughters believe in him. And that always kind of being enough. Because as long as he believed in himself, he knew that was the foundation. He just needed everyone to kind of follow along and stick to his plan. And eventually, at some point, and this is a bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want the movie spoiled, skip ahead for like 3 minutes. Eventually, he realizes that the plan has run its course. The plan has run its course. They were in Compton. They moved to Florida. He took Venus out of competitions because he wanted her just to not get burned out and end up like a lot of the young white tennis athletes who were doing drugs and getting burned out and strung out. He wanted her just to, be a kid and have fun and then go straight to the pros. And, Venus feels that she's ready. She's fighting to play. And King Richard's like, no, that's not the plan. That's not the plan. That's not the plan. And his wife like has the talk with him. And he realized that, his plan has done enough. The plan has run its course, like I said, and it's time to just to see if your plan was good enough, right? Because sometimes you have to abandon a plan and let life play out. And he did. He let Venus play out her plans, and she ended up going to the finals and being iced out. But it's Yeah, I think it's an important story for the Black experience. Kind of to my earlier point about thinking about the duality, um, your point about consistency and the importance of having a plan, sticking to it, but also being malleable and knowing when to alter the plan and knowing when to fall back and let yourself or let other people kind of shine and see if the work that's been put in has been beneficial.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I wrote down some notes as I was watching the film because obviously I know you and I were going to talk about it at some point. And once again, without giving it away, there's a point in the film where uh, the family has a big win, and the way they celebrate the win, he's not really feeling. So he gives them a bunch of exercises to just better understand the importance of staying humble. And
Right,
I
right,
thought
right,
that was like spot on, and it showed that no matter who you are, no matter what you succeed at, it's always important to stay humble. Um, and those life lessons that he taught his daughters was something that they were able to continue throughout their lives. Like I said, as we know who Venus and Serena have become. Uh, they've been able to push that tenfold. You don't see them. You don't hear them in a tabloid. You don't hear drama about them. You don't. They just handle their business, and a lot of
right,
the information and the stories that come out of their camps is all about uplifting young black people, young black women, young black girls. So I I was very very like impressed with how the storyline of the film took place and how he was just consistent. He was not gonna let anybody take advantage of his kids. You know, he also ended up raising three other children. So Venus and Serena uh, are his children, but the other three young ladies were from a previous marriage, and he was taking care of them as well. Um,
right,
and that was and it wasn't him by himself. So just to be clear, he played his role, but his wife also did her thing.
right.
And I really really appreciated the fact that she got her flowers. Where they talk about how she helped Serena get to where she is more so than he did in some aspects because he was so focused on Venus. So it's very 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 interesting how that family had a plan as a family. Yeah, he orchestrated and put it together, but they all had to play their parts in order for it to become what it became. So
Right. So just want to, we mentioned Will Smith as Richard Williams, King Richard, but the mom is played by Arjanae Ellis. That's Brandy Williams, and she's been in a lot of films. She's in Men of Honor. I remember her from Undercover Brother. She's in Ray, um,
she's
Birth of a
Lovecraft.
Nation, The Mentalist. Yeah, yeah. So she has a long list also. Just want to balance out. And I guess maybe we can close up on this, but I like adding to your point how like they showed that it wasn't just him, right? Like there was a scene where they were in the kitchen arguing, not I guess arguing and having like a heated moment, and Audrey, I'm gonna get her name right, man. This is bad. Brandy Williams was like, "Did you even notice that I fixed Serena's serve?" And he's like, what? He's like, "Yeah, I fixed her serve because you spooked her, and like psyched her out." So although the main story is about Richard and all the work that he's done, his plan, the mom was just as dedicated, and she was, while he's trying to hustle and connect with people. And I don't mean hustle like in a the traditional way, but this hustle in terms of connecting with people, hustle in terms of trying to project them and making the right connections with the right people. She's working multiple jobs. She's like really busting her ass to get the basics set for the family and keep them stable, but she's also making time to dedicate to the children's craft because she was an athlete also. And overall, I guess my last point is that it shows the importance of having a balanced family dynamic. Man, it shows the importance of an I don't want to say nuclear or traditional family, but it shows the importance of having balanced perspectives as a child. You know, we're in a different day and age. So whether it's father and mother, whether it's two mothers, whether it's two fathers, but having dual perspectives, I think it's important to balance out, because one parent's supposed to balance out what the other parent is lacking and vice versa. And it shows the importance of having that balance and the support system it offers. And knowing that when the parents are dedicated, when they have a plan, when they believe in themselves, believe in their children, you can achieve greatness. It doesn't have to be tennis stardom greatness, but it could just be relative to, your child's life experience, or better than what you as a parent you're going through or went through.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I couldn't agree more. Cool. I will say that scene that you just brought up is something that is extremely powerful, because Serena Williams is known for her serve. She's known to have one of the best serves ever. And when that happened in that scene, I was like, all right, go ahead, mama, do your thing. Because she is known for her serve. People fear her in her serve. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I agree with you
100%. Cool. All right, so let's jump into the main topic, man. Kwanzaa. So I guess to start, like, what made you agree to go to the Kwanzaa celebration this year?
Well, that's an easy answer. Come on, it was us talking about it. I've been invited to.
No, I know it's easy.
I've been invited to several Kwanzaa events over the years, but never took the time to educate myself on it. Yeah, I just never took the time. So now that you and I actually did an episode on, not even Kwanzaa, but a holiday episode, and a lot of it had Kwanzaa touches in it, right? Based on what you share, not even so much what I share, but what you share, and what you suggested to check out. I'm just at a place where I'm comfortable enough to learn about it, or not even comfortable is the wrong word. I'm excited to learn about it and experience it and educate myself on it. So that was the decision that led to the decision of me going to the event. But in all transparency, I might not go to the event, but we'll see, because COVID's out here wilding. But I did get invited to something, so I may do some stuff at home or connect with friends like yourself to see how I can practice these principles. But COVID is definitely running rapid again, so just want to be mindful of
that. Right. I guess yes. I guess on my end.
How about you? My bad. How about
you? I'll transition myself. Don't worry about it. No, that's so good. Like kind of like I said in the last episode, I'm just having this reawakening of my place and defining my place in the Black experience. And I think the struggle throughout life for me as a Haitian American is, there's like three cultures there's three cultures to decide on, right? There's the white American culture, there's the African American culture, and then there's the Haitian American culture. And it hasn't been until these past two years where I've really found a way to balance all three, so that I can start honoring and I've done Christmas. I get the principle. Christmas doesn't have principles. I get it. I understand what it's for. But I'm older now and I have a different perspective. I don't really care about gifts. I told Erica, like, to tell her friends and family, like, I don't really want gifts anymore. You can just write me a nice card and like that'll be enough for me. Like, I want something. I want meaning. I want meaning in life. Like I said, that episode we had, the conversation on Clubhouse, it just sparked it. Like, why not me? Why not just kind of lead it and see what comes from it? So yeah, so I got my Kinora. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Let's see. Got my Kinora set up, got my Unity cup, and I got my Haitian flag set up, which I'll touch on when we go through some of the main principles. But I'll start with the history of Kwanzaa. I'm going to be pulling from a bit from Wikipedia and also from the official Kwanzaa website .org. So this is just verbatim from Wiki. Kwanzaa is an annual celebration of African American culture that is held from December 26th to January 1st, culminating in a communal fest called Karamu, usually held on the sixth day. It was created by Maulana Karenga based on African harvest festival traditions from various parts of Africa, including West and Southeast Africa. Kwanzaa was first celebrated in 1966.
That's the same information I have. Can I add to that?
Yeah, you ain't gotta
No,
ask, bro.
because
Just
you
go
Wikipedia,
ahead.
I don't want to shut down Wikipedia. But in addition to that, from
No.
what I've gathered through a lot of videos and things that I've watched, is that it was something that was created to help African Americans embrace the African diaspora through celebration. It wasn't specifically around, or isn't specifically around a specific religion. It's more of a cultural thing, and I think that's something that I personally always thought it was. I always thought it was like Kwanzaa has to do with a specific African religion, and
Right.
that goes back to me, which I always say. If you want to learn something, you have to educate yourself on it. Don't just assume. And I was definitely someone that actually did that. So I wasn't practicing what I preach, but now that just how you just stated it, that was so simple for me to go wiki, what is Kwanzaa, and learn exactly what that is. So yeah, just wanted to add on to that.
Right. So it actually, which I didn't know, it was created after the Watts riot, and to add on to your point, as a specifically African American holiday. Karenga, the creator, said his goal was to give blacks an alternative to the existing holiday of Christmas and give blacks an opportunity to celebrate themselves and their history rather than simply imitate the practice of the dominant society. And Kwanzaa derives from the Swahili phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, meaning first fruits. First fruits festivals exist in southern Africa, celebrating in December, January with the southern solstice. And Karenga was partly inspired by an account he read of the Zulu festival Umkosi Wak West Wama.
Shout out to you and these pronunciations.
It was decided.
I said,
Say
shout
it
out
again.
to you and these pronunciations, bro. God, do you think, man?
I've always been good with phonetics, man. I mean, writing is my thing, so like words and phonetics has always been a good space for me. Cool. It was decided to spell the holiday's name with an additional A so that it would have a symbolic 7 letters. That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. So he said, Karenga said he believed Jesus was psychotic and Christianity was a white religion that black people should shun. I mean, I agree with the latter, that I don't think black people should be really. I mean, that's. I mean, do you want to talk about that, the religious aspect? You want to jump into
We
that a
can.
little bit?
I think he feels the way he feels, but as from what I've looked into, as Kwanzaa has evolved, it's moved away from that. Like, people still celebrate the religious holidays, but then has it added this as a cultural holiday rather than it taking
Right.
over. So I'm not sure, and I couldn't find it. Maybe you have some insight there, but I'm not sure if his goal was to for it to take over. Even with what you just shared, maybe that's what it was, for it to kind of be like, screw Christmas.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to celebrate. But if you look, to the years past, or the years after it was established, it turned into more so like, hey, we're still going to celebrate Christmas, we're still going to celebrate Hanukkah, or whatever religion we are, in addition to what Kwanzaa represents. So, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'll stick with your safe way of going around it, like, because that, I mean, that's a wholly different conversation altogether. And I don't really want to project my personal beliefs on religion and Christianity. That's a whole different thing. But right. I understand I think I guess going back to balance, right? I think as long as you I mean, I guess going back to myself, right? Finding my place. The religious aspect is like to your point. Yeah, you know what? I totally agree with you. The religious aspect is Christianity, and if that's your thing, you celebrate that and you honor Christmas. But you also should honor the heritage and the culture that Kwanzaa
Yeah,
offers. Yeah,
well,
that's it.
that's where I'm confused about this, because when when we talk about media, for instance, we talk about we did our episode around our holiday episode. We talked about that everybody hates Chris episode and how they celebrate.
Right,
They didn't celebrate Christmas, but they celebrated Kwanzaa. It didn't really add up. It added up then in that moment, but now doing the research, it didn't really add up because Christmas happens before Kwanzaa. So they essentially they still could have celebrated Christmas and then set up that week after for it to be
right,
Kwanzaa. But in the episode, you clearly see Kwanzaa happening the exact same time Christmas is happening, which is something that
right,
kind of
right,
screwed me up a little bit. So when I think about it, I see how, and again, we don't have to deeply go into it now, but I see how mainstream America and how when you look at television, and I'm using this episode as my example, so sorry if other types of shows do it differently, but I'm gonna stick with the Everybody Hates Chris episode. You see how they kind of created a conflict, and really, it's not a conflict based on how it's set. Like it's set from the 26th to, so it doesn't interfere with
right.
Christmas, but it also doesn't interfere with New Year's. Like it happens in between that time. So yeah, I was a little confused with kind of how uh, that show depicted it, and maybe other shows as well. But yeah,
That's a dope perspective. I didn't think about that, and yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Chris Rock created this false conflict when he didn't have to, and I feel like we kind of touched on that. I can't remember the exact context or the exact wording we used when we talked about the episode, um, but yeah, the episode doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Well,
that's all I got.
it can be very. That's the thing about television, and they talk about it uh, even more through how uh, what is the doctor's name? Doctor Kaminga. What's his name? Karinga. Dr.
Coringa, I
Karinga.
believe.
Forgive me. How he talked about how he didn't want Kwanzaa to become this holiday where people are or companies are profiting off of it, and they're just creating things that to blow up sales. That's not what he wanted it to be. He wanted it to be very focused on
Right.
building, and we're going to jump into the principles, but one of the principles is very focused on economics and us and things like that. So I'm not going to jump ahead, but essentially with his mindset was like, hey, I don't want to commercialize this. I want us to celebrate it, but I don't want to go to Walmart and there's this the Canora is in different
Right, right, right,
colors
right.
and they have all different. He's like, that's not what it's for, and I can really appreciate that as someone who is very similar to you, trying to kind of find what fits for me, right? As a intellect, or someone who is more spiritual than religious, and you know, I also believe you can be both. But once again, we don't have to jump into our personal how we because we have a very unique
Right, right,
sense
right.
of things, how we look at things. So, but yeah, that Chris Rock's thing kind of threw me off, and other shows that we watched as well.
Yeah, for me, it really just feels about culture. Like to my kind of like tying into what you said. What the word that stuck out to me was just culture. Right? Christmas doesn't have a culture. Christmas is just buying gifts and opening gifts, and that's it. Right? It's this what month and a half long period of nothing that adds true substance to like our individual life experiences. And Kwanzaa, like think about the placement of Kwanzaa, right? The strategic placement where people spent, like I said, this month and a half, 2 months now, crazed buying gifts. And granted, it slowed down because of online shopping, but and granted, that wasn't present in the 60s and 70s. But like you see the transition of the holidays and how the news articles, people being stampeded and dying, and then you mentioned COVID and things kind of dying down and things are less calm. Stores don't open on more stores are kind of being closed on Thanksgiving Day now, and or stores used to open at midnight. No culture. It's just the culture is just spending money, which is, I mean, the culture of America is capitalism. And the culture of Christmas is capitalism. But ending the year, right? Ending the year, transitioning, thinking about these 7 principles that are founded on individuality and community, transitioning into a new year that's meant to offer rebirth and reflection and inspiration to live a more prosperous life. And it's simple enough that it's dope, but again, for some reason the counterculture of Christmas just kind of impedes all of that, right? Like I think most people just are glad to have the time off at the end of the year to just relax and decompress from the month and a half of stress and overselling and all of that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on with that. Again, like I think we look at a lot of our past kind of practices before there was a Kwanzaa, before anything existed for Black Americans, and we all kind of did the same thing. And then here comes this doctor who's like, "Hey, we there's so much more to us that we're not learning about, that is happening in other parts of the world that we have no clue about, but we're a part of it. So how do I create something?" And I don't know if you could, but I couldn't find anything where it said he worked with a team of people, or he went to a team of people. I don't know if he did it by himself or with his wife. I couldn't really find any information around that. It just sounds like he was the one that sat in a room and locked himself in there for 6 months and just built all these principles
right.
Based on African culture. But yeah, I don't know how he went about it, but clearly it was intentional. There's a lot of intent in it, and I'm really happy and excited to dive into how they play a role now and some of the principles and so
on. Right. Yeah, I haven't seen anything about any group effort, but so like you said, it seems like it was all solo work, which is even more inspiring, right? Yeah, he had a plan, like King Richard. He had a plan. But the unfortunate aspect is, we see the end result of his plan. Well, no, we see the transition and the decline of his plan over the years because of counterculture and countercultural in response to Blackness and Black individuality. But here we are. With how many years later is that? 40 plus, 40 odd years, 40 some odd years later. Not even. I'm about to be 36, so that's 60.
No, it was in the 60s.
Like, is it 60 years?
She was born 64. It's like 57 years, 55 years ago. Yeah,
that's good. You see, I'm the English guy. You're the math guy.
It was in 66. He created my mom's in 64. 7. So it's 55 years ago.
Cool. So yeah, here we are 55 years ago, and we're hopefully trying to find a way to kind of keep this alive. So let's jump into the symbolism. Actually, so on the official Kwanzaa website, every year has a theme. So this year's theme, the 2021 annual Kwanzaa theme, is practicing Kwanzaa and the 7 principles, ensuring the well-being of the world, which I mean fits with everything going on these past few years. And it kind of feels like that's the standard for every year, the well-being of the world. Because if the world is doing good, then I'm likely to be doing good as an individual. So symbols of Kwanzaa. So the primary symbols are mazao, which is the crops. These are symbolic of the African harvest celebration and of the rewards of productive and collective labor. There's the makika, the mat. This is symbolic of our tradition and history, and therefore the foundation of which we build. There's the kinara, which I showed. This is symbolic of our roots, our parent people, continental Africans. There's muhindi, the corn. This is symbolic of our children and our future, which they embody. There's kikombe cha umoja, the unity cup. This is symbolic of the foundational principle and practice of unity, which makes all else possible. And 2 more. Mishuma Saba, the 7 candles. These are symbolic of the Ngozi Saba, the seven principles, the matrix, and the minimum set of values which African people are urged to live by in order to rescue and reconstruct their lives in their own image and according to their own needs. And lastly, Zawadi, the gifts. These are symbolic of the labor and love of parents and the commitments made and kept by children. We kind of talked about like gifts, and like most of the research I've read is that Kwanzaa is not about gift giving, but children are occasionally given gifts that are meant for like inspiration and growth versus just consumerism gifts. So it was dope to kind of to find that information and go through all the different layers and aspects. Um, I have my mat, I have my mikaka, okay, makeka. I have my makeka, I have my candles, I have the Kenora, I have the Unity cup, and just kind of we have like a placemat. Erica like did a nice design on the table, so we're just kind of trying to style it and give that full feel and symbolism of what the tradition and culture represents.
Two things that popped into my head while you were sharing that is one thing that it's been really pushed through what Kwanzaa represents is the importance of individuality and doing it your way, right? And how you celebrate it.
Right.
Yes, you have these principles. Yes, you have these symbols, but essentially how you celebrate, how you create those, how you look at them, they're like the blueprint to how you celebrate to your individuality with your family, with your friends and so on. So that's something that I really love about what Kwanzaa represents, because they make it very clear that like every Kwanzaa celebration is different. Everyone's is different. So that's the first thing that you shared that I thought was really great. And then the second thing is pretty much every aspect of Kwanzaa is focused on representation. It's something that it represents, something that has a form of representation with it. And it's not specifically just where we are as, or it's not specifically around just the African side of things. It's also around what these principles represent, and like we keep saying, we're going to jump into them, but it's all about representation. I think, you think back to 1965, 66, when all these things were happening, and you think now in 2021, 2022, we're still going through this as a people, as a Black people, trying to find our identities,
right.
trying to do a better job in gaining and earning representation and being represented correctly as the great people that we are. And that is another thing that you were saying, this represents this and this represents that. Those are things that popped into my mind as you were sharing.
Yeah, it's what really stood out to me, and like one of the things that I loved, like kind of going through the official website, was the idea of the individuality. Because I'm an objectivist, and objectivism is rooted on the individual, right? The core of objectivism is fulfilling your own selfish needs and purpose and goals and drives, and knowing that through doing that, the next step automatically benefits the community, automatically benefits the cultures, the communities. Rather, it benefits the overall human experience, but it also benefits the communities and cultures that you're a part of. So that's something that kind of stuck out to me. And there was one thing that I saw on the website. So I'll pull that up. Actually, hold on. Let me see. So there's a preparation. The preparation is mostly about guidelines and the ways people should be practicing Kwanzaa. And one thing stood out to me, and I was like, I felt some conflict. So the first preparation is you should come to the celebration with a profound respect for its values, symbols, and practices, and do nothing to violate its integrity, beauty, and expansive meaning. I'll do the third one, then the second one last. The third one is you should choose the best and most beautiful items to celebrate Kwanzaa. This means taking time to plan and select the most beautiful objects of art, colorful African cloth, fresh fruits and vegetables, etc., so that every object used represents African culture and your commitment to the holiday in the best ways. The second one was you should not mix the Kwanzaa holiday or its symbols, values, and practice with any other culture. This would violate the principles of Kujichagulia, self-determination, and thus violate the integrity of the holiday. So when I read that, like I have the Haitian flag next to me, and I've been saying that the goal is to celebrate Kwanzaa for me, but it's also to find a way to connect Kwanzaa with my own personal experience, and for me, that's the Haitian American experience. So when I read that, I'm like, is it saying that I'm not allowed to intertwine my own like diaspora culture behind it? Because number one, African culture is very vague, right? Africa is a continent. 54 different countries in Africa. So it feels very vague. Right, reading it, it feels vague to hear, celebrate African culture because there's so many different aspects to it. I'm two cultures removed from African experience, so it's important for me to, number one, not forget and honor the Haitian experience, and I need to incorporate it into celebrating Kwanzaa because it allows me to honor two generations of culture, the general African culture that they're referring to, but also the Haitian experience. And I'm still I'm still thinking. I have a few ideas on how to incorporate it, but I'm still finalizing how I want to incorporate it while not, I guess, not overshadowing or taking too much away from what Kwanzaa is within itself.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because, and I hate to be this guy because it's literally our second time talking about this. I don't know if I'm an expert in this, but no matter what you do as someone who celebrates Kwanzaa or Christmas or even Hanukkah, no matter what you do, and I'm just using you as an example, you're still a Haitian American male. Like that's just who you are by default, right? So for
Right.
for that to be in there, what comes to mind for me is that they're probably speaking more so of as an American, right? Because you're a Haitian American, from an American standpoint or Black American standpoint. But no matter how you celebrate it, if you celebrate it with, I don't know, one of your Jewish friends, that is still something that's rooted. Kwanzaa is still celebrated by someone who's Haitian American and someone who is Jewish. And I think that's something that,
right.
If this doctor sat in a room for 6 months and wrote this, can't get it all right. So,
right.
I think there are always areas to break down and interpret things, but that's why we have discussion. That's why we have understanding, and it's also another thing I couldn't find, which maybe you could find as well when I was researching, is and before I say this, I'm gonna preface this as it may exist, but I just did not see it. A leader in a Black community or someone in the Black community who is pushing this, who's having these conversations. I did come across museums around the country, some specifically focused around Black Americans and Black American history and so on, and others that weren't focused on celebration, but where the Black American leaders, the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, maybe they are talking about it, but I've followed them throughout my years and haven't seen it. So, who is the subject expert in this to be able for you to be able to send an email and be like, or reach out to and be like, hey, I find this conflicting. Let's discuss it. What are the thoughts? That's just something that me being who I am and the type of communicator I am, I would love to have that type of conversation. But I hear you loud and clear. Your point is spot on. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about, so like to your point, I was thinking about kind of like what Ty said in terms of what Ty said in the clubhouse, which, like I said, sparked my desire to be like, let me be that individual to kind of do it for myself. And I think the overall, I think one of the limiting factors of the Black experience, right? Like you talked about who's going to be the leader, is looking for a leader or needing a leader, right? If historically we look at the Black experience, I mean, you look at the assassinations, most notably Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, any Black person who ever stepped out of
Yeah, the
line
Fred
of what
Hamptons and so on.
the
Yeah.
dominant oppressive white culture. Right. Anyone who tries to lead loses their life in some capacity, right? Or they're betrayed. And like one of my beliefs, or one of like the new age thoughts I've had in the past few years, is we don't see that anymore. We don't see any individualized leaders in the Black experience, because history tells us what happens to them. And I think what the Black experience needs more of is, respectfully to you, less focus on who's going to lead, and again, focused on the individual, right? If this is something that's important to me, then I need to do it. I don't need anyone to lead me. I don't need anyone to guide me. We have the internet. Like we
Yeah.
both did our research, right? You pulled from different resources. I pulled from different resources, and our individual responsibilities is to honor the source, but also implement it and curate it and cultivate it into our own unique individual experience. And I think that's what the focus should be. How do I make this personal to me while honoring the culture and tradition? I think I think that
Yeah. No,
needs
I
to be
agree with
more of
you.
the
I don't.
focus.
I'm aligned with you there. I think for me, what's to be more specific, I mean around uh, guided principles around something that once had a founding father, a founding leader for it, to be able to dissect it and get a better understanding of thoughts. So I was talking more so about, I believe you said
Right.
the second thing you shared, how you and I are discussing it and giving our interpretation around it. But it would be nice to hear from the horse's mouth of somebody who is essentially an expert in that space. Um, so that's what I was talking about. But I do agree with you
Right.
100%. I think that's important as well.
Got it. So let's jump into the seven principles and the actual practice of it. So one of the first things that I found, which I thought was dope, is that there's greetings. So the greetings during Kwanzaa are in Swahili. Swahili is a Pan-African language and is chosen to reflect African Americans' commitment to the whole of Africa and African culture, rather than a specific ethnic or national group or culture. So another thing that could have kind of stuck out to me was Kwanzaa is focused on the African American experience. And I forgot what you said earlier. Yeah, you brought up the fact that, again, I'm Haitian American, and if I was born in Haiti, I wouldn't know about Kwanzaa. I wouldn't care about Kwanzaa. There would be no desire to celebrate Kwanzaa, because my I have a direct connection to my culture, because I'm born in my motherland, right? Eventually, Africa loses its significance. Not, it doesn't lose. Eventually, the Africa's energy as like my base and my motherland is dissipated because of the centuries of Haitian roots that my family have laid out in Haiti. So, I read through it and I'm like, it feels not dismissive. It feels like it excludes the West Indies, Caribbean. It's supposed to be for the diaspora. It's supposed to be for everyone who has roots tied. Well, not everyone, because civilization started in Africa. It's supposed to be founded in all Black people, or, race Black people who have roots in Africa. But a lot of the language hasn't been updated to include, like I said, West Indians. So if it feels dismissive, it feels non-inclusive, which adds on to me saying, okay, well, like I'm gonna include myself however I can, because the African American experience, I don't define, I don't solely define my
Yeah, but
experience as the
that's
African
exactly the
American
point
experience.
I was making previously, right? If you had somebody who And again,
Right.
I don't want to take away because I've been looking into this for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Um, but if you had somebody who is 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 the goal to like when it comes to Catholics, you have what the Pope like it just I think
Right.
it maybe exists. Maybe there's someone you go to and you talk to them about it. But these conflicts are realistic and real conflicts. In addition to that, we evolve, we elevate as people. So what we were in 1966 is not who we are now. Yeah, I brought up earlier around representation, but there's so much that has happened for us positively, and that has enhanced us as a people. And when I say us, I say talking about Black people. We always like to identify that. um, so so I think it's a great point. Who's to say that Kwanzaa can evolve or it doesn't have the ability to evolve? Who makes that decision? But it kind of double edged sword, because you bring up another good point that based on what the principles represent, and based on what the or what Kwanzaa represents, you technically can create your own, make it yours. Doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter, and
Right.
that's what I mean. There's a lot of overlap where it's Christmas or Kwanzaa, or Christmas and Kwanzaa, and then you know African American versus Haitian American versus Caribbean. There's so much that I think is very conflicting. But on the flip side, it's like I can control this. So I think you hit on both points and both sides for sure.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So the general greeting is Habari Gani, which means what's the news? And depending on the day, you respond with that day's principles. So the first day, when someone asks Habari Gani, you see Umoja. And it made me think of like the Israelites, like the mathematics, the 5%ers, the God body, like, what's today's mathematics? And, you offer mathematics based off of numerology. So I thought that was dope. And it was dope to see. I'm sure, it might have existed in other parts of other cultures, but it's dope to see the connection and transition between the foundation of Kwanzaa in terms of, what's the news? And you have an answer. What's today's mathematics? And you have an answer based on different things. So I thought that was dope. But yeah, day one, right? So actually, no. Let's do the 7 candles, the red, green, black. And you brought this up in the last episode in terms of what the colors symbolize, because they were prominent on on a Tribe Called Quest,
Yeah, and
Midnight Marauders
it's
album.
this is great you're bringing this up, because from what I've seen about Kwanzaa, the different people look at it differently. The red, black, and green, which is the black represents the body, the red represents blood, the green represents earth, land. For some people, and the other people, they have other representations of it, which
Right.
was another thing that confused me a little bit. But I understood that, and it is understood that this is something that you have to be able to articulate in your own, like use these principles or articulate it in your own way. So, but essentially, the red, black, and green represent the body. Black represents the body. Red represents the blood of our ancestors, and green represents the land, our land. Um, and that's how I always knew it as. But I don't know if you've seen anything else or seen any other interpretations of it, but I heard other interpretations as well.
Yeah, I saw the same thing too. There was a difference in what I saw for the green. Um, I I was thinking about the transition of red, black, and green. So, red being the bloodshed, which is bloodshed, but also blood. And that's, for me, that's also the past, right? It's your bloodline, it's your lineage, it's the culture. The black is the physical body, which is the present, the now, of your lived black experience. And the green, the vegetation, motherland, but also in terms of growth, because, green in nature means vegetation growth. It's for its future. It lets you know that there's food to eat. There's food to fill your bellies, food to provide for your children. So yeah, the other side that I saw was that the green represents the growth, and that's kind of how I guess switched it up to make it make sense in my mind in terms of past, present, future.
Yeah, and I love that. I saw the green also represented as the feast, the food, the fruits of our labor.
Right.
That was something that I read, during my research as well. So, but yeah, those are the representations of the seven candles, or the
An,
colors. The red,
an, Another one that I just pulled up was the green represents the abundant natural wealth of Africa, which ain't that the truth, right? Ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the
The
truth?
truth. So the candles, I forgot the name. Excuse me. The individual
Are you
name for
talking about the candle holder, the Kenora?
no, the individual name for the candles. The seven candles,
Oh,
the Mishuma Saba. That sounded more Japanese than Swahili, but,
yeah, Mishuma
or maybe
Saba.
Mishuma Saba. Yeah, the so you the lighting, you start with the black in the middle, and I'm gonna kind of go through it based off of how I just interpret it in terms of past, present, future, because the body is the foundation, because the body, the physical, is you in this present day and time, and then you light them from left to right and you alternate. So on the far left corner is the you light, after you, on day one you light the black candle. Day two, you'll light the red one. Day three, you'll light the green one. Then you'll go back and forth until all seven are lit. The first day is Umoja, which I've also seen as Umoji, but it represents unity. And what we want to do is kind of incorporate some of the episodes some of the media we've discussed in the season so far, and kind of connect them with the seven principles to, I guess, kind of expand on them or just offer our own perspectives. I have some, and I know you have some also. So, what stood out for you in terms of unity, Umoja?
Yeah, well, tying back into some of the episodes we did or we've done, I feel like there was something in pretty much every episode that touched based on that.
Right.
So it was a little bit of a challenge for me to choose one specific thing, but I'll just spit out a couple quick ones. Like obviously the connection to the Winslows and the unity they had as a family was something that was interesting from a family perspective, and that's what I saw from a unity standpoint. But I didn't want to make it that simple. I felt like that was the easy way out.
Right.
So so I looked at just other things that some of the other episodes we did, and um, one that the one that really got me, that I wanted to, that I felt made the most sense was how their white people, how they came together, and and overall how that film pointed out so many different uh, cliches, right? But by the end of the film, the connection amongst the black people, black students, and was something that I saw as soon as I read the definition. I was like, if I can choose one of the episodes or one of the points that we've gone through, they're white people, and kind of how that came together is something that makes sense for me from a unity standpoint. Because does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What did you find in terms of defining Umoja unity?
As far as in the film,
No, I mean, like the actual the definition, or what it represents. 'Cause I realized that's something I missed. I said unity, but like each principle has like a brief sentence or description. So did you find anything that just further describes unity and how it
not
represents, how it's represented?
now I went through the same process and read it through Wikipedia just like you did.
Okay.
But I also, like I was saying to you before we jumped on this, before we started recording, I probably watched like 30 videos over the last 2 weeks about Kwanzaa, and everybody has totally different, like I mean, totally different interpretations.
Right.
So in some of the videos I've seen, people talked about unity specifically around family. Other videos I've seen, people talked about unity specifically around community. It had nothing to
Right.
do about. They didn't even talk about family, and some people looked at community as family. And then you had others that looked at unity as us as a people. So I've seen
Right.
that. So I feel like there are so many different interpretations of it, and how you look at unity, and I feel like they all make a lot of sense.
Right.
It once again going back to how you interpret this. So that's why I looked at it. I try to stay away from I feel like the family aspect is just easy. It's an
Right.
easy aspect. So that's why I looked at it more so from a community aspect, or even I guess talking about dead white people, I guess a race aspect as well.
Okay.
Um, I even see someone talk about uh, unity from a Kwanzaa standpoint about America as a nation, which I thought was very
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I saw a video with that and how they utilized, uh, and I'm not gonna get deeply into it, but basically they utilized black poor people from the '60s and '70s and talked about how the nation has unified through the years to help us gain and evolve and elevate in social class. So they talked about how Kwanzaa has evolved based on black people being able to earn more,
Right.
which is it's a very interesting thing. So I get too deeply into it, but to answer your question, I've seen it. I saw it in a couple, or it was defined in a couple different ways.
Cool. So I found, I guess, so for each, and again, just going discovering and learning that each principle also has a symbol. So umoja, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. And like to your point, family. It seems easy and it seems obvious, right? Again, I'm thinking about King Richard, right? The unity of family and what seeing what excuse me, seeing the success. I can't phrase it right. Seeing how unity led to the overall collective success of the family. Um, but most importantly, I think it's about community unity, which always feels lacking for the Black experience, because there's the general belief and language that there aren't really that much Black communities, because a community is self-owned, self-operated to an extent. The nation, I mean, yeah, and the unity in the race, I mean, yeah, that's just an ever-present theme. The symbol for Umoja is Dagi Nut, a Pan-African symbol of unity found in several African cultures, uh, i.e., Yoruba, Hausa, and Mushongo. And when I thought about unity, I thought about a different world, and just the thinking about college and the diversity of college, the diversity of the characters, the diversity of how many different aspects of Blackness was represented in a different world, and they were all connected. They all had they had their sub communities, but they also had their collective community. And regardless of the tiffs and taffs and fights between individual people, the end goal was to stay unified. The end goal was to further their individual experiences, which I think collectively elevate the community of of Hillman College, right, which is a larger community, and it also elevated the individual. Excuse me, also elevated the Black experience, because so many different people were represented. Thinking about Whitley being this. I was gonna say high yellow. I don't know if that's offensive. But,
Uppity.
being a fair skinned boule, light skinned Black woman. You have Freddie, whose name we forgot, and just thinking about how quirky and unique she was, right? In terms of representation, you don't really see that much. But just thinking about Dwayne Wayne being the nerd, smart geek, Steve Urkel of the show. I mean, granted, I think it predated, but just the unique characters, man, and they were all unified for representation, which I think is important.
Yeah, I definitely thought about a different world too, and I said again, I think there's something in every single episode we did that you can pull based on what uh, unity represents.
Right.
That was that. I agree. Like that makes so much sense.
Cool. So next day is Kuji. Do you want to do any of these? I mean, and not an issue if you don't.
I'll stick to like you've been doing a great job. You know me, I'll murder words. So no, I do not.
Fair enough. All right. So the second day is Kuji. Actually, so how about this? Right? Why don't you do the what's the word, and I'll answer with the second day.
What's the
What
word?
was
What
it?
do you mean?
Remember when I said that the greeting is a greeting, Habari Gani, and I'll answer it with what the day is. How about that?
Let me see. Where am I looking? Is that what you sent me, or am I just saying that?
You're just saying it, Habari Gani, and then I'll answer with the respective day.
Okay, Habari Gami.
Gani with an N.
Habari Gani. Cool, got it.
All right. So the second day is self-determination, which is Kuji Chagulia. To define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And the symbol is Ahenwa, the Akin throne, symbol of national identity, cultural groundedness, and rightful governance. And I thought about Fresh when I thought about Kuji Chagulia and his drive to kind of like King Richard, right? He had a plan. I like how everything is going back to King Richard. Fresh had a plan. Fresh had a plan. He had a goal. He had a dream, and he had a responsibility to get himself out of that situation, get his sister out of that situation, and he was determined to fulfill that plan. And the entire movie is watching that plan unfold, watching this young kid be more intelligent, more cunning, and a chess master, right? I mean, it's the theme behind behind Fresh is being a chess master, and watching him be a chess master and outwit all of the other, basically making everyone a pawn in the game of life, which I thought was dope.
Yeah, I have nothing to add there.
Okay.
I 100% like. I literally thought the same exact thing when I was looking through our episodes. I was like, this identifies Fresh 100%. I was trying to think like, I go back to like the Steve Urkels and how he just, he was unapologetically. We talk about how unapologetically Stevie was. So I'll go back to thinking about him, obviously, and the Dwayne Waynes and so on. But Fresh hits it on a whole
Right.
nother level. So I definitely thought about the same thing, and actually thought about it more when we were talking about it pre-recording. So yeah. All
Cool.
right. Now what's the saying I gotta say?
Come on, man. You guys killing me.
I don't even remember it. What is it? Ooh, what am I saying?
There you go.
Habigari.
Habari Gani.
Habari Gani.
All right, so day 3, which is a green candle, is Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters problems our problems and to solve them together. The symbol for Ujima is Okomo Nutauso, the Adinkra symbol of shared effort and obligation. So what came to mind for you for Ujima? And Ujima is a green candle. Sorry if I didn't say that.
Oh, no worries. So what came to mind was when we talked about a holiday episode and me bringing up the preacher's wife. And we were talking about Reverend, I can't remember his name now on the tip of my tongue. But the Reverend from the preacher's wife and his dedication to the church, to family, to building, and throughout the film, the struggle that he went through to ensure that the church was saved, and obviously the things that he learned along the way. but that's what came to mind when I was reading this principle.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it short and
I
sweet.
thought oh doubt. I thought of a Tribe Called Quest, our last episode. Um, Going back to the God lives through verse with Five Dog, collective work and responsibility. If New York won't look good and Queens won't look good, all of that. I talked about the awareness of knowing. Well, I mean, initially your point. I thought of your point, and the collective work in terms of them always of the tribe members always shouting each other out, representing each other, and knowing how important it was to represent their partner, right? Like I'm gonna spit these 16 bars regardless, but I'm just gonna remind you about my man's real quick so you don't forget him. Then I'm gonna give you some heat also, which is dope. But Five Dogs God lives through verse, and I talked about the responsibility, knowing that as an MC, as an artist, as a Black person, creating the foundation or being part of the foundation of hip hop, knowing that what he says, how he portrays himself, how he raps, how he offers content, it's important to the overall Black experience. And those series of bars shows that he has the awareness of his responsibility, and he has the awareness of the collective work in, I guess, in fulfilling that responsibility.
Part I'm thinking to myself, part of what that represents through or seeing it through a music lens or utilizing music or an album is something that is even more what's the word? Like it has even more relevance, I feel like, than seeing it on a TV show or seeing it in a film, because a lot of
Right.
these TV shows and these films have they're sugar coated, and I feel like a lot of music, especially an album like from Tribe Called Quest, it's an album that is all about authenticity. So I love to hear that, and that's fire. All right, I
Dope.
got it. Habari Ghani. Did I get it?
All right. There we go. There we
Let's
go.
go, baby.
Excuse me. So day 4, which is a red candle. I'm also, I guess I'm trying to see if the colors also correspond with the principles. So day 4 is a red candle, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. The symbol is 2 interlocking half circles. The Nisabidi symbol of togetherness and family. What came to mind for me was a written testimony, and I talked about written testimony. I talked about it's God body rap, right? It's the elevation of what the Black experience has become, and realistically, someone like Jay-Z is at the forefront of redefining the Black experience, being a billionaire, being a mogul, being a hip hop pioneer, being a lyrical pioneer, being a business pioneer for the Black experience. And a lot of the music, a lot of the music with him and Jay Electronica, like Jay Electronica isn't at the level of Jay-Z, respectfully, but having him as ever present on that album, number one, is cooperative, and the content they're talking about, like Jay Electronica offers a lot of the religious aspect from what am I forgetting? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What group is that?
Nation of Islam.
Yeah, the Nation of Islam. Thank you. He offers a lot of philosophy from the Nation of Islam. Right. And together, him and Jay-Z offer the importance of cooperation, right? Like religion is rooted in cooperation. Religion is rooted in community growth and building, but the religion itself is just one aspect. You need the other side of you need the economics, right? You need money, you need education, and you need to redefine or rethink how you invest in money, how you invest time within yourself, within the groups, within the people you work with. Because cooperative economics, going back to capitalism, money is the root of the American experience. So the hopeful goal, right? The ever present goal is Black people working together collectively working together finance finance and I guess redistribute their investments and time to redefine the Black experience. And money is the leading factor behind that.
Yeah, bro. Everything you said and more. So I felt exactly the same way when I was looking at this principle. I literally thought about Jay-Z, 444, and just the education he was giving us almost on every track. But around around money and around wealth and around growth and around family. Um, so yeah, I hate to say it, but I really don't have much else to add to it other than a written
Right.
testimony. Obviously, it's a part of that collection. But for me, Jay and what he was saying in 444 was spot on with this principle. So
Right.
uh, uh, Habari Janari Habari
Are you
Ghani.
doing it on purpose? Are you nah? Are you doing it on purpose now? Like
All right, I'll stop.
it's not. Come on, man. Nah, yeah, like like respectfully, show some
All
respect,
right,
bro. Come on, man. Like we're trying to respect this. Come
I'll
on,
stop
man.
messing with you.
Come on.
Habari Ghani.
All right. So day 5 is a green candle, which again represents growth and or vegetation or richness of the motherland or Africa. And day 5's principle is Nia, which is purpose, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Um, the symbol is the hieroglyph Nefer, ancient Egyptian symbol of beauty and good. What came to mind for you?
Yeah, so this one was interesting because as I told you before, I didn't really go through them all. I chose like 3 of them, and this was one of the 3. Uh, and what came to mind was this podcast. It was the work
Okay.
you and I are doing, and I find purpose, and I'll speak for myself. I find purpose in uh, having these conversations and dissecting these forms of media when it comes to the Black experience, and leaving our conversations and leaving our each episode with something that I didn't have previously, which is a better understanding and an insight on on something I looked at one way, but with your point of view. Um, and then I find that I end up talking to other people outside of it about it. Right? I have conversations with other people in the real world whereas I don't know if this is the fake world, I guess the podcast world, but the type of conversations that
Right.
we're having here are extending to conversations that I'm having with my dad or with other people. Um, and I think that's giving me purpose in what we're developing. So what came to mind with this particular principle was what you and I have been doing these last, was it 6 months? And the people that have been a part of it and giving us their insight and being able to hear how they're impacted by it and how it's bringing them to new heights and opening up their minds as well. Um, so yeah, that's what came to mind for me.
I love that. That's dope. I didn't consider that at all. Yeah. Um, I wish I had, because I probably have more insight. But yeah, that's definitely dope to consider. And it is a mutual feeling in terms of purpose, and as much as it's for me. I mean, I talk about things being rooted in self. I know that it's rooted in fulfilling my purpose and figure out my purpose. But glad that we're able to um, do our cooperative economics to hopefully redefine other people's purpose and or yeah set the tone to define other people's purpose. What connected to me was Lionel from Dear White People, and I was mostly thinking about how Lionel was always he was the anomaly in Dear White People, because he didn't quite fit into any particular space. He was still trying to figure out where he belonged and who he was. And I guess that, maybe it's me projecting also and kind of feeling connected with that. So the goal for Lionel was to figure out his purpose, to figure out what he wanted to do, who he wanted to be, how he wanted to be represented, which house he fit into. And by the end of the movie, he finds that through doing work and doing through his own self-determination. He finds his purpose, and being a writer, being able to offer unique perspectives that people may not have the time to experience on their own, but they're willing to read about it. I think it also helps people kind of fulfill their purpose, which, like, to your point, the podcast we're doing, right? People may not have the time to research Kwanzaa. People may not have the time to watch these movies, but the conversations that we share, the conversations that we have on the podcast, on the Clubhouse, it might spark an idea, right? If you listen to 5 episodes and it sparks one idea, that's good enough, and that's potential, and it's potential to increase purpose and redefine the experience.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, Habari Gani.
So day 6 is Kumba, which is creativity, to do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. The symbol is the 7 vibrations of divine creation, the Dogon symbol of creativity. And what came to me was Steve Urkel, and just thinking about, I think out of all the shows we watched, Steve Urkel from Family Matters. His symbolism is being a creative, being a genius, being an inventor, and knowing the importance of innovation, right? Technological innovation leads to social innovation, leads to cultural innovation, and Steve's ability to create. I mean, Steve could probably create anything he wanted. Granted, down the line, he just creates. Like, you think about the potential, right? Steve has this potential to create anything in the world, but all he does is create an alter ego so he can get the girl. That's just sad. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad. Like that. That's the it's comically sad, right? Like that's what his effort goes into, right? They create a storyline where that's where his effort goes into it. Steve doesn't solve world hunger, right? He doesn't fix the hole in the ozone layer. His greatest achievement is Stefan Urkel, an alter ego, just to get a girl. That's fucked up symbolism.
Yeah, but hey, if you can save the world.
Right. But knowing that he has the potential to create anything he wants, I think is important. And it paves the way for the future generations of creatives and people who want to offer new perspectives and experiences for the Black experience.
Yeah, man, I love that perspective. For me, it was, and this is maybe a little off the cuff, but for me, it was Debbie Allen, who was a producer, director for A Different World. When I thought about how you and I destroyed season 1 of A Different World because it just didn't have, it wasn't rooted in a culture, the storylines or blah.
Right.
And it wasn't a terrible show, but it wasn't what we expected the Black experience to be. To then seeing what season 2 and beyond became, and all the rich culture that was in it, all the colors, all the energy, the cast and crew, and it's not all Debbie Allen, but she played a prominent role in that. And when I thought about creativity, I just was thinking about some of the incredible episodes that you and I discussed over and over again, just about history and about growth and personal development, and it just, we went from hating season 1 to like falling in love with this show.
Right.
Debbie Allen, who isn't a character on the show, she's just one of the producers, and she's directed and all that. But her influence was something that popped in my head when we were going through this, when I was going through this principle.
That's a dope perspective, man.
Let's see. Habari Gani.
All right, day 7, last day, which is the last green candle, and the last principle is faith, Imani, to believe with all our heart in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. The ancient Egyptian double symbol of the Ankh, life, and Jed pillar, stability, endurance, serves here as a symbol of steady fastness and commitment to the good, the right, and the beautiful in life.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously, I didn't go through all the principles, like I said, but this one, once I knew we were going to be touching base on this, a written testimony popped in my head with just all the points and there was a lot of, I guess, symbolism, you can say, I guess, was in it as well, but just how Jay Electronica put together the album, and a lot of the intros and outros that tied into the music as well. Obviously, I can look at a preacher's wife as well as another thing, or anything around the holiday time and Christmas. But that was something that popped to my head around faith. Was that particular part?
Cool. So it's interesting. Like I didn't go through the exact like the excuse me. I didn't go through the exact significance meaning of faith. And for them it's about peace of people, parents, teachers, and leaders. So what stood out for me with faith, I thought about the Rugrats Kwanzaa episode.
Yeah.
And I thought about that because it was having faith in the future generation, having faith in our children, because I think they're more important, right? Like we talked about during the holiday episode, that we grew up seeing Kwanzaa episodes here and there, right? Rugrats Kwanzaa was in I think came out like in our teens. Although I'm gonna say this lazily, that I think there are a good amount of Kwanzaa episodes from like the 90s and early 2000s, but none of it influenced us, right? Learning about the Black experience, going through the Black experience, and I guess knowing about the struggles of it, I felt like as children or as teens, knowing that Black people had their own independent holiday, it would have sparked some type of interest in us to celebrate it, but it didn't. It didn't. Collectively, it didn't. Rather. So when I thought about the Rugrats episode, it was on T, I believe. I think she's showing kids the fun of Kwanzaa because she wants to inspire them to celebrate it. She has faith that through making it fun-filled holiday, the children will take it on and pass on the tradition. So I looked at it as faith in the next generation, and I like that none of what's written in the description is rooted in faith in a higher being. It's about the tangible reality of what we can control, who we can influence, and how we can let other people influence us.
I was about to cut you off. That's exactly what I was thinking. I wanted to say was that when reading this principle, it does not talk about having faith in a higher power. It literally talks about having faith in our people, having faith in the struggle. Like that, to me, that was just like, that was eye-opening, because if you ask most people what does faith mean to them, they'll say something when it comes to higher power or believing in some type of religion, which is fine. But it goes to show how minimal our definition of the word faith can be.
Right. Or how it's been. Sorry to cut you off. How we've minimized it, right, to just make faith about religion when it should be all encompassed.
Yeah. So, or even having faith in each other. Right? I have faith in you. Right. To lead a good life, or having faith in you to do this or do that or support that. Like I think that is a very, very powerful thing. That it's a great way to end the principles, because it opened my eyes immediately when you said that. So yeah.
Cool. I guess the only thing I would want to touch on is add a bit more info about Dr. Maulana Karenga. Is there anything you want to touch on before we kind of transition into that?
No, go ahead. Let's do it.
Cool. So this is, I guess, I'll just do I'll pass over some information about him. So I didn't note that he was a doctor earlier, so my apologies on that. And I know that you brought it up, so thank you. But he's a professor and chair of the Department of Africana Studies at California State University, Long Beach. He holds 2 PhDs, his first doctorate in leadership and human behavior political science, with focus on the theory and practice of African American nationalism. His second degree is in social ethics with a focus on the classical African ethics of ancient Egypt. His ethical philosopher, leading exponent of Mason ethical thought, author of 17 books and monographs and 4 co-edited books, 57 journal articles, 42 book chapters, and over 650 columns and commentaries on critical issues. So, it's interesting to have someone as highly decorated and awarded as him, but it feels like the Black experience isn't about honoring, like, if think like give me a famous Black doctor that comes to mind. Or so even someone who just has like their PhD.
Like Ben Carson.
Okay. Anyone else? No, I'm not trying to play you. It's just this is an honest question.
I don't feel played. I'm just saying Ben Carson. Famous Black. I guess Maya Angelou, wouldn't she be a famous Black doctor?
Cool. Cornel West also.
Cornel West.
What's it? Michael Dyson. Eric Dyson.
I think it's Michael Eric Dyson. I'm pretty sure. You got it.
You're right. Yeah, I was just thinking of. Go ahead. If you had
no, go ahead.
I was just thinking of thinking about Black doctors who are prominent or well known. It feels limiting. Like my mind initially went to Eric Dyson because he's related to hip hop. Like a lot of his perspective, I feel like a lot of the perspective he ends up sharing or what he's known for is rooted in hip hop. And it just feels limiting. It feels limiting, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just going to. I pulled it up to see if anybody else on here that I can think of. Obviously, to your point, it is limiting, but it's also like, as a culture, do we celebrate them, right? Or not even celebrate them, but do we speak on them, or do we accept or hear their input when it comes to whatever their expertise or area of study is? Do we use them as our sounding board? I know Cornel West, man. Cornel West, I've seen that brother on CNN tearing him up.
Right.
But they respect him because of who he is. They give him his respect, and I think that's something that that you don't see in obviously in all these figures, I guess, or these celebrity doctors and so on. So, yeah, good point.
Yeah, that's all I got on my end. Anything else? Any final points you want to touch on?
I think this was dope. It's a little bit of a challenge for me, but I'm glad that you and I decided to make it happen, especially on the eve of all these things happening, as far as the holidays happening, to be able to give people, whoever, hopefully, people who listen to this and gain something from it, because I know I gained. I'm still gaining from it and learning from it. So it's all a part of my purpose. So no, that's all I got.
Cool. All right. Thanks for rocking out. Yeah, that's all I got. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we'll try to do a clubhouse next week, maybe, or this week, depending on when this drops. Just to kind of get more insight on people's, hopefully get more insight on people's perspective on Kwanzaa. If you have anything, please come on. I'll post it on social media, or times you'll post it. So please come on and challenge us. Please help us expand on our perspective, and help us. I mean, part of the work of this podcast is helping us redefine and reshape the Black experience. So, we need other Black people to do that.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
For those who have been listening, listening to the podcast and actually have been a part of the Clubhouse episodes, once again, we greatly appreciate you guys, but we also would love your insight on this. I think this is something that we're just really, really excited about and really happy to be able to celebrate. So any insight would be great, because as you can see, we all have different perspectives. So I'll leave it at that. Have a good holiday, guys. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Clubhouse for bi-weekly club discussions and occasional recaps at Nothing Moves Without Us. Please follow our TikTok and Instagram at A Black Culture Podcast. And you can watch our podcast episodes on YouTube at Nothing Moves Without Us, A Black Culture Podcast.